Oh. We didn't see you there. You caught us by surprise.
Keelan, why would you not tell me that the audience was there watching us?
Well, George, I didn't know myself. I think they have broken into my home just to watch this conversation between us that we did not expect to be in front of an audience whatsoever.
I don't know how to continue this.
I don't know either, George, but the fact of the matter is, this show is called Everything Unfiltered. We're not cutting anything out. We might make some jokes that fail, we might say some stuff we regret, but at the end of the day, it's going to be in the video, and you guys standing here in my house get to see it.
This is a very scary idea.
It is.
We have never done this before.
We have not. As a matter of fact, we came up with this idea yesterday. We brainstormed it for about an hour and 6 minutes, I think, exactly. And then today, we're like, why don't we just film it today? And now we're here.
Yes.
Yes.
That is very accurate, actually.
So, since this is the pilot episode, we ought to run them through just the concept of the show. We will be having timed segments where we discuss different topics, such as pop culture is one that I will be the connoisseur of, while George will host world news. And we have a few other segments that we'll save for the end, one of which is a debate in which we have opposing sides. So, anything you'd like to add, my associate?
We better have some good editing.
Oh, you can always count on me for good editing.
Could put an edit there,
Maybe. Or maybe I won't.
No, you have to do it. Okay,
Now, shall we begin, George?
on to world news.
On to world news.
So, the first thing that I'd like to discuss with everybody is the trade deficit. The Wall Street Journal released an article today, March 6, 2019, about how the trade deficit has hit a 10-year high, which means that in 10 years we've now reached the high point of $621 billion per year.
Now, George, tell viewers out there, not me, but just viewers, what the trade deficit is. I know. I just want to make sure viewers know, but I know for sure.
Yes. Okay. So the trade deficit is basically dividing how much money and stuff we give away by how much money and stuff we take in.
Gotcha. Okay. Makes sense.
So if we sell like $1 billion worth of stuff,
yes,
but we buy $2 billion worth of stuff, the deficit will be $1 billion.
Gotcha.
So right now the deficit has hit $621 billion, and that comes from a few factors. So right now we have a strong U.S. dollar, which is fortunate because thanks to Brexit and just a few political struggles in Europe and other parts of the world, the economy is a little bit unstable, but we're still hanging in there so far.
Yeah.
And also the 2017 tax reforms that were instituted have gave us some stimulus in the economic sector, which is, again, we don't know how it'll turn out long term, but as of now we have some stimulus.
What do you mean by stimulus?
So it's very hard to say, but it's employment. It's a small increase in overall wages, and just a whole bunch of little things that basically mean that our economy is healthily growing.
Yeah, I got you.
Even though the trade deficit is large. Now, Trump, our president, as I'm sure many of you know.
Who's that?
I would have not been able to tell you a few years ago. Has already promised several times throughout like throughout his presidency and throughout the campaign trail, and already when he's talking about re-election,
Yeah.
he's always promised that he's going to lower this. He's going to lower the deficit.
Okay.
And he said that initially in the campaign trail, when he was talking about funding his wall, that we all know the huge political calamity that's happening with that.
Yeah.
He initially said that Mexico is going to pay for the wall because of the trade deficit.
I seem to remember thousands of voices chanting that Mexico would be paying for the wall.
Yes.
Yeah. I don't seem to be seeing any progress on that, but that's good.
Not exactly, because that's not how it works at all. Because that money isn't being held by the Mexican government.
Yeah.
It's being held by individual Mexican businesses.
Yeah.
And you can't really say we're going to force all of these businesses in Mexico to give us money. Like,
Right.
we don't have any kind of authority on that whatsoever.
Yeah.
So we're going to have to be paying for that. But the deficit is still there, and it is still increasing.
Mhm.
I believe right now it's increased by over $110 billion since 2017.
Wow.
$621 billion is the 2018 number. And do you have any thoughts on the subject?
Okay, run those two numbers by me one more time, and what's the difference? Go ahead, give it just one more time.
It is in 2017
Yeah.
to 2018, the deficit increased by over $110 billion.
110 billion.
Increase.
Okay.
And right now the number is $621 billion.
So, that's a big fraction of the total deficit that we just added on.
Yes, the entire trade, the entire debt that we have, the United States national debt,
Mhm.
it's up in the, I think we've surpassed $20 trillion.
Gotcha.
But this is just a year by year kind of.
And our current commander in chief, you're saying that he claimed he was going to be lowering said deficit, and it has increased by 120 billion. You said
110, but yes, still
110?
an extremely significant number. Yes.
About how much was it increasing before Trump was in office? Per year?
We do not have that data right now.
We don't?
Not as of now.
Like us as a country, or the two of us?
No, the two of us right now. We have all of the numbers as a country.
Of course. Fair enough. Yeah, just curious, but yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's a Trump thing or if that's just an America thing, but either way, that's pretty drastic, and I hope we can get on the right collision course, or get off the collision course onto a non-collision course would be nice.
Because there's a certain level that the national debt has to reach before it becomes like a substantial problem, and
Right.
we're not there yet. But it is still a topic that we're closing in on. So
Yeah. Well, thank you for enlightening me on that. See, this is
absolutely.
the great part about the show, is that I would never have known that without talking to George. Because
Education.
my crowd is much more of the pop culture folk, whereas George, he's one of those people who follows the news. He has all the headlines ready to go, which I do not, unless we're talking like comicbook.com or Heroic Hollywood. So that's the genius of this show.
Absolutely, and I'm sure I'm going to be learning a lot with you in the next
Hopefully.
7 minutes.
No. Now we're budgeting about 15 minutes for each of these main segments that we host. So in the remaining minutes, is there any other topic you would like to discuss, or any further thoughts on this topic?
Would you like to go more close to home or more foreign?
Let's do foreign.
Alright. So in the past few months, India and Pakistan have started to actually escalate hostilities a little bit.
Yeah.
And recently, very recently, a captured Indian pilot was returned by Pakistan. And
If you all hear a dog barking, then you're not going crazy. There is a dog barking, but we can't edit it out due to the contract of the show. We must leave it in. So
enjoy the dog.
yes. No, please do continue. I apologize for the interruption.
It's not, you don't control the dog, but a captured Indian pilot was returned by Pakistan,
Okay.
so that served to de-escalate the tensions a little bit.
Yeah.
But there is still some fighting at the Kashmir line of control,
No.
which is an area in, north of India.
Mhm.
So India is also set to lease a $3 billion nuclear submarine from.
What is a nuclear submarine?
It is a submarine that has ballistic missiles on it that can fire at a long range and can, hopefully, since it's a submarine, submerge under the water and go undetected.
Wow. So, what do you mean by release it?
Release what?
You said release the submarine? Is that what you said?
Lease the submarine.
Yeah.
Lease the submarine.
Release the submarine.
No, it's Russia is a big supplier to India for all of their for the defense contracts.
Yes.
And this is a $3 billion machine just because it has a tremendous destructive capability.
Yeah.
So Pakistan is, of course, a little bit nervous about this, and although we are not at panic mode yet, there is still some escalation, and but you have to keep in mind that both of these countries have nuclear weapons, and it is a very big possibility that that something could happen, and that's something to keep in mind, and try to work and try to make it so that there's only a peaceful dialogue in the future.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any thoughts?
I don't feel qualified to give educated thoughts on these matters, but in a normal video, I would cut out the silence in which I try to think of
Absolutely.
of a thought worth contributing, but
Well, I can share a very small story while you think, if you'd like.
please do.
This one doesn't really require any thoughts.
Okay.
In the Balkans, currently in I think four countries in the Balkans, there are several protests. They aren't coordinated, but they share some general themes. They all want, like the protesters, they want a harder fight against corruption. They'd like some government transparency, and they want a more independent media. So a lot of these protests have been springing up lately. Again, they're not coordinated against across the borders, but individually, the people of these protests all want real change. So it's these Western ideals and I guess ancient Greek ideals of democracy at work in that area of the world, at least.
Two questions. One
Yes.
about this story, one about the last one.
Yep.
For this one, about regarding the Balkans, do you know what sort of corruption is occurring? Any details on that? Or
It's a lot of local matters
Mhm.
that I'm not exactly privy to.
Mhm.
If you would like, I could in the next episode return to the story and
Absolutely.
give you a little bit more detail. But
feel free.
and there's a bunch of restrictions in place by some of the governments there regarding the media and like what they are allowed to print or what they are not allowed to print.
Yeah.
And also the government is a little bit. I wouldn't say the government is corrupt, but I would say that it is shady.
Yeah.
In that it doesn't really disclose a lot of what it does to the people anyway, and they don't really like that. They'd like it to have a more transparent, open feel.
Yeah.
So
I feel like I've seen a few movies that kind of follow that path. People don't have the ability to free speech, something we're very lucky to have
absolutely.
in this country. I mean, literally, we're making a series with Unfiltered in the title right now,
Yes.
talking about other countries and our own nation's leader, we even mentioned, and we're allowed to do that, which is a privilege, so that's really cool.
We are very lucky.
Yeah. As for the previous story, regarding the pilot, do you know any details on the pilot, his capture, how long they had him, etc.?
No, but that event when he was captured, it served to escalate the tensions,
I can imagine.
and because India was basically like, we would like the pilot back, and they were like, no, we want to question him. It had some similarities to the U.S. pilot that was downed over the Soviet Union.
Yeah.
And they took him and they questioned him. There's been a famous movie about that.
Yeah.
But he was just actually returned, and this again served to de-escalate tensions.
Yeah. Okay, that's good. I'm glad he's back.
Absolutely.
That's good. Well, it appears, according to our state-of-the-art timer, that this segment is about to end. So, shall we move on, my good lad?
To pop culture.
To pop culture. All right.
Is this the pop culture stance?
Yes. I hear movement outside of this room. I mean, studio. Just making sure we have a peaceful recording environment before I proceed. Okay, let's go. So. I believe yesterday, DC Entertainment dropped the trailer, or the newest trailer for I'm sorry, I messed up. But I can't edit it out because this is everything unfiltered. They dropped the newest trailer for their upcoming feature film Shazam, also known as formerly Captain Marvel, which is a whole deal because there's also a Captain Marvel movie coming out this week.
So there was some controversy there?
I wouldn't say controversy. There is a bit of a banter between the Marvel and DC fans because the name Captain Marvel was initially licensed by DC. Then the character kind of fell out of use for a while, so Marvel took the name because obviously the name Captain Marvel has some appeal to Marvel. Thus, now we have the situation where some people are like, "Oh, Shazam's the original Captain Marvel," but it's like you let that name. Like you that name wasn't copyrighted. They had every right to take that name, and then now you kind of reinvented the character with the name Shazam, which, if you're familiar, is the word that young Billy Batson says to gain the stature of an adult and the powers of a godlike hero. So it's the way that the movie synopsis is described is like Big, the movie with Tom Hanks, where he's a kid and he becomes an adult all of a sudden. Meets Superman, so he has super speeds, flight, super strength, etc. So that's the premise of Shazam. Very different from Captain Marvel. But what I want to discuss about the new Shazam trailer and a lot of the Shazam trailers. Have you seen any of the trailers?
I've seen actually some of them.
Okay.
2 of them actually.
Okay. Well, you may have noticed the repetition of the trailers. They have reused kind of the same few key scenes, and each trailer adds maybe an extra minute of content, but essentially it's kind of giving you the same premise, really only showing you stuff that happens maybe in like the first like half hour of the movie, which I think is an interesting tactic. So there's going to be a lot to this movie. To the average moviegoer, by watching these trailers, they might believe that Shazam is really the only superhero in the film, and that it's a rather simple plot. Kid becomes a superhero, has powers, etc. And they show one villain played by Mark Strong. He really only has like one speaking line in all the trailers collectively. But there's actually going to be more villains, 7 more villains to be precise.
7.
The 7 deadly sins. I'll show this image to the viewers, but these are these monsters. I'm not very familiar with the characters, full transparency, but these are Shazam villains that are basically the embodiments of the 7 deadly sins. And they are confirmed to be in the movie, but we haven't gotten a single glance of them in the trailers, which is interesting. Additionally, Billy Batson, Shazam's younger alter ego, is a foster kid, and he has a foster family with foster siblings. And in the comics, they also get his similar superhero powers, and they can also become adults that have their own abilities.
Yeah.
They're called the Marvel family, and they are going to be in the movie as well. Yet we have not seen any of them except for one, and we only saw his kid counterpart. We didn't actually see the superhero version in the trailer. So really, there's a lot of stuff here. There's a lot of characters, a lot of cool moments that are being withheld from the public for the moment, which is interesting, and people don't like that. And one person in particular on Twitter tweeted at the director saying that they want to see this stuff in the trailers. They're like, why is the movie coming out next month and I feel like I haven't seen anything yet? And he said, I'd rather have this complaint than you showed the whole movie in the trailer. Hashtag Doomsday, which is a throwback to the, I believe, second Batman v Superman trailer, in which they made the choice to reveal Doomsday, which was kind of like the surprise villain at the end of the film. After Batman and Superman mend their wounds, then they team up to fight Doomsday, which is like a surprise, but they showed it in the trailer. So that has created my question for you of whether do you believe it is better for trailers to leave out some of these awesome, significant moments so that audiences don't feel like they've already seen the whole plot of the movie before going in? Or is it better to give them a little taste of some of the coolest parts so that they get even more excited and so that the movie gets more traction?
Well, I think that it's definitely a balancing act, and I also think that you should definitely have a trailer create intrigue, but I actually agree with the director who said that who's choosing not to reveal any of these because I feel like that not knowing will provoke people to go to the movies more rather than not. Even though the argument can be made that if you have no reason to go, because you haven't seen anything, then you definitely have to then you definitely have to put in some of these ideas. But I mean, anything surprising, you shouldn't put in. Anything that, and as a general rule, anything that will leave the audience like, what? Shouldn't be in the trailer.
Agreed.
For everyone to see, because that moment in the theater, that's why you go to the theater. And that's why you hate people that the day after come to school or come to the workplace and go, hey, did you know that this happened in the movie?
Facts.
That is why.
Yeah, I agree completely. I think it is difficult because it is hard when you have such a major part of your movie to not let any viewers know about it, because without being someone like me or a lot of people in the comic book community who follow this stuff like very closely, who like the way that you check world news, right? Like geeks, go and they check like what's new today in the world of superheroes, like what's some behind the scenes talk that maybe a director or an actor let slip in an interview. We get all the juicy details, and so like we know that there's gonna be the 7 deadly sins. We know that there's gonna be the Marvel family. So we know that that's something we get to see, which motivates us to see the movie.
Of course.
But also, being superhero fans, we're gonna see the movie regardless, right? Like we're gonna see, even if the trailers look cheesy as heck, we're still gonna go see it because it's because superheroes are like embedded into our lives, and we got to go support these movies. Which then begs the question: are the trailers for superhero movies, should they be catered to the fans who are probably going to see the movie regardless, or should they be catered to the general audience? And that's a big question, because the average moviegoer from those trailers is going to have no idea about those 7 giant monsters and about the kids becoming superheroes too. Like,
of course not.
Yeah, so without following the stuff the director says and whatnot. So, so then, should the trailers allow the audience to at least believe that there's going to be some more levels to the movie, or should they? I mean, yeah, it's tough.
I think with any major motion picture, you should assume that there is going to be another level to the movie, because if there wasn't, I doubt that it would be greenlit. If you have like, say, like a classic movie in like the alien fighting genre, it's just like shoot alien. If there wasn't any other level to that, it would be like, oh, thanks. you produced a movie from the 50s.
Yeah.
How about we not do that and we do another movie, which will leave the audience just a little bit interested.
Yeah.
So I think that it's all about making the audience entertained, and you can do that in several different ways.
Yeah.
And you just directors need to find what works for them and have the right balance to pay respect to like the movie, like the actual subject matter of the movie, which is like the Shazam character. If you had it so that in the comics he was like green and now he's like yellow, you can't really do that.
Right.
Because that's not doing justice to the character.
Yeah.
But if everybody wanted to see a yellow guy, then what are you gonna do?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's difficult to find that balance, like you said. Find that middle ground, I think is what you said. But yeah, it's I think it's doable. I also think you have the option of watching trailers. No one forces you to watch a trailer.
Except if you're on TV.
Except if they're on TV.
You're forced to watch it.
And even if you go to the movies, you can choose. I mean, any movie shows trailers for what, like 20 minutes?
Oh,
you can show up 20 minutes after the movie says it's going to be starting, and you'll be fine. You'll show up and there'll be a trailer or two left, right? Yeah. So it's not like you can't make the argument, okay, but when I go to movies, I see all the trailers, I see these spoilers, right? Like, nobody is forcing you to sit through all those trailers. So,
absolutely.
I mean, my aunt's boyfriend, shout out to Chad, Rad Chad is what I call him. He always walks out of the theater during the trailer segment, and then goes in when the movie starts because he doesn't like watching any trailers. And I think that's an interesting way to go about movies. I think it's interesting.
Well, I don't know Chad, but I think that's actually really interesting because, I mean, you can't really get very much from like the name of a movie.
Right.
I mean, I guess you have the poster.
You have the poster. You have the basic premise. I mean, if you know the movie is called Shazam, it's going to be about the superhero Shazam, right? Like you know that much.
You can look that up as well.
And then you know word of mouth. I heard this movie is really good. I heard it's supposed to be funny. I heard this is it's really sad. Whatever. So there's word of mouth that is an interesting aspect of it. Something that I like, a really cool concept to me, is the very first Star Wars movie. Back before it was called Star Wars Episode 4: A New Hope. Back when it was just called Star Wars.
Star Wars.
And have you seen the first trailer for Star Wars?
I believe I have, actually.
Yes. It is a background of space, and it is text.
Mm-hmm.
That is it.
Oh, of course. It's
and
intrigue.
People were intrigued.
Intrigue is the name of the game, exactly.
And I have seen Mark Hamill, Luke Skywalker. I saw on his Instagram a while back, he posted some of the original posters that they used, or I think some of them might have just been concept posters. I don't know if all of them were used, but they were posters for the very first Star Wars, and they were so vague. Like, I don't remember the specific slogans, but it was like enter a new world or something like that. At the time, right, like that wasn't cheesy, that was like new, right?
Yeah,
so when you hear that, it's like, this is gonna blow my mind, and then people see it without any expectations, and then it does blow their mind.
See, it's about creating an atmosphere in the movie theater that defies the audience's expectations.
Yes.
But it doesn't go so far to alienate the audience.
Right. Yep.
And I think that Star Wars definitely did a great job with that.
Mm-hmm.
They had their like different species, but they also had their human elements and robotic elements. And I think that it's very valuable to do this and as a tactic. And I think that nowadays if you have like great special effects, you're gonna put that in a trailer, of course, because I mean you want to eventually you're gonna want that daily dose of New York being attacked by a dinosaur, or New York being attacked by like a monkey, or New York being attacked by
basically New York just can't catch a break. Yeah.
Oh, of course.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, the other thing I wanted to mention before our segment is about to run out of time here.
It's 45 seconds. You got this.
So I was going to connect the Shazam trailer, their marketing campaign to Avengers Endgame. Avengers Endgame has had 2 trailers. Okay. Now, tell them that we didn't cut the video, George. Tell them we didn't cut it.
We didn't cut the video!
You gotta believe us.
There were complications with the 32 gigabyte SD card, and this is why we have a pilot episode.
Exactly, so we can get these kinks worked out. Next time we'll be back at you with a 64 gig so we can fit the whole 50 minutes into this thing.
They're surprisingly inexpensive. We should probably have one.
We probably should, I don't know why we don't. But, you know what we do have?
Knowledge.
Knowledge is power.
You right.
But
What do
also-
we have, Keelan?
We also have a state-of-the-art lighting set. I couldn't think of a good noun. But check this out. Look at that.
You can't even see me now
I know.
because of the light.
Exactly.
The light is off.
We're in complete darkness. To our viewers, don't worry. We are not in a cave. We are, in fact, still in our professional studio.
We are not in Aristotle's cave.
We are not. Back to the transcendent realm.
No.
Whoops.
No. Hey!
First try.
We got
All
it.
right. Now, I will quickly finish my thoughts regarding Avengers Endgame. They used the same trailer tactic as Shazam.
Yes.
And both trailers, one being like significantly shorter than the other, the first one still being rather short, both were very elusive. They did not reveal too much of the plot at all. I believe Kevin Feige actually said that the trailers only show like what's in the first like 20 or so minutes of the movie.
Yes.
Which is great. I think that since this movie is such a big mystery to everybody, what's going to happen? Yeah.
The last movie ended with so much, like I want to kill Marvel kind of like
Exactly.
hatred and anger. I think that it's very good for them to be preserving the mystery.
Yep.
Just because they made a commitment to preserving the mystery, which everyone was annoyed by.
Yeah.
Well, some people, at least. I'd say the majority of people were annoyed by, and I think that if they did it, it's good that they're sticking with it.
Yeah. I think it's very good that they're sticking with it.
Well, it looks like we're out of time for this segment, Keelan.
It does indeed. It's been a pleasure discussing pop culture and world news. Two
Absolutely, sir.
very different topics, but very fun.
Yes.
Absolutely. Now it's time for Two Sides, baby.
Woo! Let's go.
Let's go.
Now, you don't know what this is, but we're going to pretend for a minute that you do. Now, what was our topic for today, Keelan?
Today's topic was the ethics of animal cloning.
Yes, so every single episode we're going to have a quick two-sided debate about a certain controversial topic that we have differing opinions on. So I of course have an analytical mind, scientist. So I believe that that animal cloning is of course ethical, and Keelan has some, at least to my knowledge, mixed views about the subject.
Indeed.
So let's go. We're already 1 minute and 41 seconds into this segment. So
Now I'm going to start
kicks off.
by bringing in a real world example of this.
Yes.
Have you guys seen the movie Ant-Man? I'm just kidding, not real world. But
Okay.
but
I was very, very scared.
have you seen
For saying
Ant-Man?
yes.
They, before testing the shrinking powers on a human, they tested on a sheep, right?
Yes.
And the sheep, it shrinks down, right, and it's alive for a second, but then it dies because of something. It like splatters, I think, or something. Because my analogy here, which is very bad, but my analogy is that animals are always used as the tests before some things such as medicine and whatnot is tried on humans. Yes. Which this goes into a much deeper debate about whether it's humane to do that or not, or whether it's the only way. I don't know what other alternatives there would be. You can't really test it on non-living things, so it is interesting. But I think that it's difficult that in order for humans to be helped, animals have to be hurt. And I don't know if cloning an animal puts it at any risk. Maybe it doesn't. But if it does, if there is a chance that the animal could be killed in the process, and if this is a trial that's being done repeatedly over and over again by different organizations, perhaps it is unethical. Perhaps.
Well, I would say that it still is. That it's still like within ethical boundaries. And in the United States, we have our regulations about that. We are not allowed to like a board on any university setting, research institution. They all generally adhere to the idea that you are not allowed to do unjust harm to a creature.
Yeah.
Or to whatever you are studying. And the actual like definition of undue harm or like or unjust harm
Yeah.
is quite debated.
The pillow. Continue.
See, this is the stuff that again we could edit out.
But we can't.
Nope.
Because
we
everything
can't.
is unfiltered.
And I swear, if anybody says that break was an actual cover-up to us filtering something, it wasn't. Okay?
It wasn't, okay?
It wasn't.
We can only fit apparently 30 minutes of video on this freaking SD card. We're trying to preserve quality for you guys, okay? If we cut down the quality, we could have recorded this whole thing, but we're talking that HD, that 4K, well, almost 4K, but almost 4K. Continue.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. It's a very, very just argument for that.
Right here.
Yeah, but what I was talking about the unjust
Back
harm,
to animal cloning.
what I was talking about with the unjust harm.
Yes.
It is necessary to test out on animals. That any kind of drugs and the procedures that you would do on humans, because again, what you said, we don't really have anywhere else to do it, but also there are certain animals and humans share not obviously they don't share similar organ systems, like not all of them at once.
Right. Yeah.
But like I'll give you an example. Pigs produce insulin, which is produced by our body, and so in like very old days, actually, what am I thinking of?
I don't
Yeah,
know.
insulin. I think the disease that involves insulin.
No idea, dude. I couldn't tell you.
You need insulin injections.
I don't know.
Diabetes. Jesus.
Oh, I actually didn't know that.
Again, oh God, this is what we would. Okay, but diabetes used to be like the rich man's disease because you'd have to be able to slaughter a pig every day in order to survive. So you need the ability to test an actual drug or an actual procedure on a live biological system that has a similar that is similar to humans. So the pigs, that hormone is similar.
Right.
So as a result, we were able to, the rich people were able to eat the pigs and get the insulin that they needed to survive. But without that, you can't guarantee a person's safety.
Yeah.
Because there's extensive clinical trials produced in almost any single and research settings with animals, and you'd never intentionally hurt the animal just to hurt the animal.
Right.
But you do need to do this in a laboratory setting to advance science, because these aren't malicious deaths. These aren't. They serve a very important purpose, and I think that is ethical.
So, do you believe there is a risk of death with cloning specifically? Or are we at the stage where we can guarantee a creature's life will be?
Well, you can never guarantee anything. But
are we at the stage where it's not like sheep are going to be exploding when we try to clone them?
Well,
like in Ant-Man.
So there's a lot of different ways we can clone. We have cloned a sheep.
Right.
We have cloned a sheep.
I'm aware. Yeah.
Did not live very long, but we cloned a sheep.
The clone didn't live very long.
Yes.
Okay.
And there's natural births and natural conceptions. They have thousands of chemicals which all interact with each other simultaneously in a very complex way.
Mm-hmm.
And at this time, there's so much stuff that's going on that we don't have the scientists. We don't even usually care what's going on until it starts to interfere with our goals. So at this time, no one can rule out that there's going to be a death, because again, we'd be cloning this sheep in an artificial environment, and you could always have complications that arise.
Yeah. Okay. I think it's just this gets a lot deeper than I imagined, because
Absolutely.
it brings up the whole question of whether it's humane in the first place to test animals for anything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, is human life the most valuable life? And that's really tricky.
To humans, yeah.
To humans, yes.
Absolutely.
To us, we are in the interest of self-preservation. It is logical to do this. Yes.
Absolutely.
Especially when it comes to diseases, I believe. If you're testing a medicine that could cure millions of people, but it'll kill a few animals, I think, generally speaking, that is moral for the greater good. But I think cloning is also different, because cloning isn't necessarily needed, right? It's human cloning. It's not something that like we need to achieve anytime soon, like for our species survival. So, is it necessary to kill the animals, or put the animals' lives at risk? Again, I don't think either of us can be certain if any animals would die in the process. But
of course, we're not the participants in any of these experiments. We don't know exactly what's happening.
Exactly.
But I think that knowledge, in and of itself, is of inherent benefit to the world and to everyone.
Yeah.
And as a scientist, you have to believe that. You have to believe that knowledge is a good thing. And what these experiments were doing, we're not cloning sheep just to clone sheep. But if we were able to clone sheep, or if we were able to clone stuff like this, it would open the door to other advancements in various different fields. Say you clone a sheep, right?
Yeah.
Then you clone more sheep, and eventually you clone 1 million sheep. If you could somehow get wool from those sheep, and make some new material out of that wool that would require a lot of wool, then suddenly that material could be like, well, this is obviously never going to happen, but you put that in like a space shuttle, it burn through immediately. That's a horrible example, but again, don't have enough time to think, or to cut out stuff. So if you were to like line a device with that material made from the clones, then that would be a benefit.
Yeah.
And you can argue that with almost anything. It's about pushing the field forward, and then relying on other people in that field to kind of move the general quality of life and our civilization in general towards a better tomorrow.
I see. I think I agree with you. I think I agree with the premise of what you're saying. I don't believe that all scientists would do this, would go about pursuing a better tomorrow in the best way possible, though. I think as with most things, a balance can be found, and I think some people, I mean this is like a classic, I keep bringing it back to movies, but this is like a classic movie thing, right, where there's the evil scientist who says, okay, like Venom. You've seen Venom?
Yes.
Okay. Riz Ahmed's character, the evil scientist dude, he tests these symbiotes on poor people. He takes poor people off the street and basically does human lab rat experiments with them to see how this symbiotic relationship works. And a lot of them die or go crazy or are injured. He believes it's in the pursuit of science, because if we could control these aliens, then that could benefit our species tremendously. We could learn new things about the universe from this, but it's at the price of killing people, taking homeless people off the street and killing them, right? Which is taking it a little far, but in some people's minds, it's a necessary sacrifice. It's do the ends justify the means is what it breaks down to. I think with cloning, I think that taking sheep occasionally or whatever animal and attempting a few trials, I don't think is necessarily a bad thing, especially if the risks are low.
Yes.
But when it comes to pursuing a better tomorrow, I think that many scientists, some scientists that have your mentality would do great things with this concept.
Yes.
But I think that in the wrong hands, this cloning technology or any technology could be potentially counterproductive if someone pursues this better tomorrow idea a bit too radically.
Absolutely. It's many different. That's why we have rules.
Yeah.
And that's why we have ethical. I mean, obviously, picking people off the street and doing experiments on them would definitely not be tolerated by by any kind of institutional board. But that's why we have these regulations, because even the pursuit of science isn't worth a large amount of human lives. And at this time, at least, I'm not going to say my views on this, but at this time, animal lives are not worth the same as human lives. So it is very it is acceptable to the medical community as long as there's no
you said
pointless harm.
The statement about animal lives being inferior to human lives, that's not necessarily your belief, that's the belief of the medical community. Is that what you're saying?
What I'm saying is that as long as you don't do unjust harm to the creature, and as long as you don't do like harm just for the sake of doing harm, and as long as your research is going towards a goal, then it is generally considered ethical. And I think that's I'm not going to give my personal opinions about that, but I think that the advancement of science is worth it, at least in this respect. But we also have to be careful, because what I'm saying, or these general rules, can't apply to everything. Like, for example, the nuclear bomb. And that was a tremendous advance in science. And through that, we have nuclear reactors, but we also have potentially extinction-level devices. And I think that, of course, we need to be very careful about that. You can, before we talked about nuclear devices, that they have a tremendous, catastrophic. Everybody knows that they're extremely destructive, and there's been numerous advancements throughout the field. But the initial research was done, and when they took it in the direction of a bomb, a lot of scientists that worked on it eventually came to publicly state that they regretted it. And it's very important not to just be swept up in the question, can we do it? It's very important to ask yourselves, why would we? And I think that is a question that all researchers should ask themselves, especially if they're doing something even remotely controversial. Like, why are we doing this? What's the end game? Because if there isn't an end game, if there's no real reason, then you need to reevaluate your research, and you need to come to the understanding that you should probably put your talents to better use.
I think that connects back to what I was saying about the ends justifying the means, and how different people will approach that philosophy differently. So if there is, I think that it does break down to if you're someone who's going to pursue knowledge for the sake of knowledge, not for the sake of betterment of the world, that's different. I think it's different. It's different to say, I want to know that I can clone a human versus I want to be able to clone this particular animal because this animal contains in its blood a cure for a disease. You know, I think those are two enormously different things, and I think that's the difference in my mind.
And we also have to consider that in certain situations, you need to ask the question, can we do it? In order to later ask the question, what are we doing? Because because like what they did with the sheep, obviously we wouldn't want to create billions of sheep.
Yeah.
But knowing that we could clone something complex enough as like a biological organism, like a large multicellular organism like on par with humans, that would be useful knowledge that we could incorporate later into various different fields.
Yeah.
So there's a certain point where you have to ask, why are we doing this? But at the beginning, at least, you should ask. You should also ask, can we do it?
Okay. I think that's fair.
That's fair.
And I think we have far exceeded our time limit on this segment, but
we have doubled the initial expectations for how long that would take.
But also it is okay, for we are at roughly our episode limit of about 50 minutes because in future episodes we will have additional segments that we will alternate to fill what should be the last 10 minutes of our show once we get this down to a science. And science.
That was funny, and if you didn't laugh, I'm disappointed.
If you didn't laugh, you're just stupid, is the thing, because you just don't get our scientific humor, right? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now that we've thoroughly made a fool of ourselves, thank you for watching.
Thank you for watching. You're not stupid, unless, of course, you decide you don't want to come back for our next episode. Then you're really stupid.
That would be just horrible.
You know what would happen if you, the person watching this, doesn't come back for our next episode? George and I will literally cry for the rest of time.
The next episode will be 50 minutes of us crying.
It literally will be, and no one will watch it.
And then,
So come back,
and then we'll
please.
have to cry some more because no one watched that one.
Exactly, and then you know what this will become? It'll become crying, unfiltered.
Unfiltered.
Yep. Episode 2 will be called Weeping. Episode 3 will be called Sobbing. Episode 4 will be called
Breakdown.
Episode 5 will become... It'll be like the stages of grief, basically. We'll go through, and each episode will document it. So come back, watch the next episode, and I promise it won't be us crying. Hopefully.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
So, thank you very much for watching.
Thank you.
And we'll see you next time.
Alrighty. What's good, George? Still don't know how these guys got in our house, though, for real.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yoo-hoo!
We're not ending with that.
We're definitely ending with that.
We're not ending with that.